Long ago, when the sun still spoke to the earth in whispers and the rivers carried secrets of the ancestors, there stood a kingdom known as Okuta Ile, the land of stone walls. The kingdom was famed for its towering palaces built from black granite and for its warriors who defended their borders with spears that gleamed like lightning. But above all, Okuta Ile was celebrated for its crown prince, Oba, whose name carried the weight of kingship itself. Prince Oba was admired not only for his strength but for his wisdom. Even as a young boy, he asked questions that startled the elders. Why does the moon follow us at night? He once asked his father, the king. Or, what makes a man worthy of ruling? Is it his crown or the hearts that beat for him? The people adored him, but in the quiet corners of the palace, whispers carried a different tone. Some courtiers believed that Oba's curiosity would one day lead him into trouble, for the ancestors had warned that the prince's destiny would be tested by a woman of shadow and light. The tale begins on the night of the festival of New Yams, when drums beat like thunder across Okuta Ile. The air was heavy with the smell of roasted maize. Palm wine flowed in calabashes, and dancers painted with chalk whirled around fires that leapt to the heavens. The entire kingdom gathered to give thanks for the harvest, to honor the earth goddess, and to renew the covenant between rulers and ruled. Prince Oba, dressed in flowing white robes, stood beside his father. His eyes wandered, not to the food nor to the dancers, but to the crowd. Something tugged at him, an invisible pull, as if unseen eyes were watching. And then he saw her. Among the maidens serving kola nuts to the elders was a girl he had never seen before. Her beauty was quiet, almost hidden, like a flame behind a veil. She moved with grace, carrying a wooden tray, her head bowed in humility. But when her eyes lifted just once, they met the prince's, and in that moment the world seemed to still. Her name, he would later learn, was Nia, meaning purpose. No one knew from where Nia had come. She was not of noble blood, nor of any family recognized in the kingdom. She appeared only weeks before the festival, offering her service to the palace as a maid. Some said she was a wanderer from the northern hills. Others swore they saw her step out of the forest itself, as if born from the roots of an iroko tree. The old women muttered that her eyes were too knowing, that when she looked at you, it felt as if she saw not your face, but your spirit. Children, however, adored her. They followed her laughter like birds chasing sunlight. Prince Oba found his thoughts drifting to her even when he tried to resist. In council meetings, when warriors debated wars and borders, his mind wandered back to the girl with the quiet gaze. One night, Oba dreamed. He stood at the edge of a vast river, the waters black and endless. On the opposite shore stood Nia, clothed in white, her arms stretched toward him. But behind her loomed a shadowy figure with horns like a ram, whispering in a tongue the prince did not understand. Nia called out, "Choose the path, Oba. Cross the river or remain forever bound." The prince awoke with his heart racing. Dreams he knew were not to be taken lightly. The kingdom's priests believed dreams were the language of the ancestors. Was Nia the woman of light and shadow foretold in the prophecy? By dawn, rumors had already spread. Some palace guards noticed how the prince's eyes followed the maid. The queen, wise and sharp, summoned her son. "Oba," she said, "a king's heart must be like iron. It may beat, but it must not sway. Who is this girl that stirs you?" The prince hesitated. "She is no ordinary maid, mother. There is something about her I cannot explain." The queen frowned. "Remember the words of the diviners. Your destiny will be altered by a woman. Be cautious, my son. Not all beauty is blessing." But the more he was warned, the deeper his curiosity grew. It was in the moonlit palace garden that Prince Oba finally approached her. Naya was watering the royal hibiscus flowers, her movements calm and deliberate. You work as though the flowers speak to you, Oba said, stepping from the shadows. Naya did not flinch. She simply replied, "Flowers do speak, my prince. Only a few care to listen." Her words struck him like a riddle. They talked long into the night about the stars, the rivers, the struggles of common folk, and the burdens of power. For the first time, Oba felt seen not as a prince, but as a man. What he did not know was that Nia carried secrets older than the kingdom itself, secrets that would one day test his courage, his throne, and even his very soul. And so the seed was planted. A prince admired by all, a maid of mysterious origins, and a prophecy that warned of a destiny shaped by her hand. The drums of fate had begun to beat, softly at first, but with each passing night, louder and louder. This was only the beginning of their tale. The moon waxed and waned over Okuta Ile, yet the bond between Prince Oba and the mysterious maid, Nia, grew stronger with each passing night. Though their conversations remained hidden within the palace gardens, the air within the court had already thickened with suspicion. It was unusual, even dangerous, for a prince to spend so much time with a servant girl. Yet Oba found himself drawn to her like a moth to flame. When she spoke, he felt as though the very earth paused to listen. One morning, Oba disguised himself in plain robes and wandered into the bustling market. He had always loved watching his people barter over yams, clay pots, and cloth dyed in deep indigo. But this time he went searching for Nia, who had been sent to fetch palm oil for the palace kitchen. He spotted her near the spice stalls, where clouds of pepper and ginger stung the air. But something unusual caught his eye. An old woman approached Nia with a basket of cowrie shells and whispered urgently into her ear. The old woman bowed low, as if before royalty, though Nia was only a maid. And then, just as quickly, she vanished into the crowd. Oba approached. "What did she say to you?" Nia hesitated. "Only a blessing, my prince. The poor sometimes mistake kindness for something greater." Her words were smooth, but her eyes betrayed something hidden, something she would not share. Later that week, an accident shook the palace. A fire erupted in one of the kitchens, flames roaring and licking the rafters. Servants screamed, scattering like frightened birds. Oba, hearing the commotion, rushed to the scene. But before he could lift a hand, he saw Nia step forward. Calm as the river in dawnlight, she stretched her hands toward the flames and whispered words no one understood. To the shock of all present, the fire bent back as though obeying her command, shrinking until it flickered into nothing more than smoke. The pots lay blackened, but the kitchen stood untouched. Whispers spread like harmattan wind. "Did you see her? She spoke to the fire. No ordinary maid can do such a thing." The priests frowned, the guards exchanged wary glances, and the queen's suspicion deepened. That very evening, Queen Abeni summoned Nia. The queen's eyes were sharp, her voice regal yet edged with warning. "Who are you truly?" she demanded. "Do not lie, girl. No hand of flesh commands flame." Nia bowed low. "I am but a servant, my queen." "Servant?" The queen's voice rose like thunder. "Servants do not wield the tongue of the elements. If you bring danger to my son, I will see you cast out beyond the walls of Okuta Ile." For a long moment, Nia said nothing, but when she raised her gaze, there was a sadness in her eyes. "I do not seek to harm Prince Oba," she whispered. "It is his path that has called me here. Our destinies are woven together, whether you will it or not." The queen stiffened, unsettled by her calmness. Despite the warnings, Oba's heart burned brighter for Nia. He began sneaking away from his duties to walk with her beneath the moonlight. "Nia," he confessed one night, "the world says you are dangerous, but when I am with you, I feel safer than I ever have." She turned to him, her face lit by the pale glow of the moon. "Do you not fear what they say of me? I fear only one thing, Oba replied, that you might one day vanish from my sight. Her breath caught, and for the first time she allowed herself to smile fully. Yet deep inside she carried a weight heavier than her heart could bear, the knowledge that she was bound by forces even Oba could not yet understand. News of the strange fire incident reached the priests of the land. They gathered before the king, their voices solemn. "My lord," said the eldest priest, his white beard trailing like a river down his chest, "we remember the prophecy. It warned that the prince's fate would be entwined with a woman of shadow and light. She will either raise him to greatness or destroy him utterly." The king frowned. "And you believe this maid is that woman?" The priest nodded. "The signs are clear. She is no ordinary being. You must act before her shadow swallows the throne." The court grew restless, divided between those who saw Nia as a threat and those who whispered she might be a blessing in disguise. That very night, Oba himself sought counsel. He poured palm wine at the foot of the ancestral shrine, calling upon those who walked before him. As the flames of the shrine flickered, a voice rose from the smoke, neither male nor female, but heavy with eternity. "Prince Oba, beware the heart that blinds the eyes. The woman you cherish carries both gift and curse. If you turn away, your path will remain clear but empty. If you embrace her, your destiny will bend, and the world will tremble with its weight." Oba trembled, torn between love and duty. Yet in his heart he already knew which choice he was destined to make. And so suspicion grew, the prophecy stirred, and the kingdom stood at the edge of unease. Prince Oba's love for Nia had blossomed into something undeniable, yet every step forward seemed to awaken shadows long buried. What powers lay hidden within the maid? And what price would Oba pay for choosing love over caution? The drums of fate beat louder still. The drums of Okuta Ile softened to a weary hush. Markets still opened, fires still glowed at dusk, and children still chased one another through alleys of stone. Yet an unease threaded the air like smoke that would not rise. Prince Oba carried it in his shoulders and jaw, and even when he laughed with the wrestlers or walked among the weavers, his eyes wandered toward the palace gardens, toward Nia, as if something might snatch her at any moment. In the heart of the court, a different fire burned. Chief Olumide, keeper of the treasury and master of smiles that did not reach his eyes, had measured the prince's affection like a merchant weighing spice. He bent often at the ear of the eldest priest, and the words he dropped were heavy with fear and promise. "Your warnings go unheeded," Olumide murmured. "If the prince binds himself to the maid, the throne will bend towards shadow. But if we act swiftly, if we protect the realm, the people will praise the priesthood and the council alike." The old priest stroked his white beard. "The ancestors watch. They surely do," Olumide said, "and they love a kingdom that survives." The plot ripened on a moonless night when the lamps of the corridors were trimmed low and even lizards slept on the cool walls. A royal guard, new, untested, and dangerously proud, was whispered a lie. The maid is a witch who seeks to drown the prince in his own room. Fear is a spear that makes fools of brave men. Oba woke to the clatter of feet and the cold flash of steel. "Stand down," he commanded, but panic is a river that obeys no king. A blade nicked his arm, another struck a pillar and showered sparks. In the chaos, a shape flowed through the doorway like water finding its path. Nia, barefooted, eyes bright as iron in a forge. She lifted her hands. No incantation, no dramatic flourish, only a breath like wind through reeds. The blades grew heavy as stone. Ashen with confusion, the guard staggered. One dropped his weapon. It clanged dully, as if mourning its own misuse. From the corridor, the queen's voice rang out, "Enough!" But already the court had gathered, drawn by noise and rumor. In their faces, Oba saw fear, calculation, and something like hunger. Chief Olumide stepped forward with the priest beside him, pointing at Nia as if his finger were a decree. "Behold the proof," he cried. "She bends iron and flame. She bewitched our guards. She is the shadow we were foretold." Nia lowered her hands. "I saved him." "By sorcery," Olumide answered. "The serpent that guards the hen house is still a serpent." At dawn, the great hall filled like a gourd with rain. Stone pillars rose like forest trunks. Ancestral masks watched from carved niches, their silent mouths full of old truths. The king sat grave and weary. The queen's face was fierce and torn. Oba stood tall, his wounded arm bound with cloth. Beside him, Nia bowed her head, though her gaze never fled the horizon of the king's eyes. The eldest priest raised the staff of kola wood. "A woman of shadow and light stands before us, as written. The signs are fulfilled. We must decide in wisdom, for a wrong turning now will echo in the bones of our grandchildren." "Then hear mine," Oba said, voice firm. "She has preserved me more than once. She saved the kitchens from fire. She stayed the guards' blades without blood. If her power were a dagger, it is one turned against danger, not against our house." Olumid smiled softly, the way the Hamatan pretends to be cool. "A tamed leopard is still a leopard, my prince. Today it sleeps. Tomorrow it may remember the forest murmurs rolled." The queen rose, gold bangles singing. "Answer plainly, Nia. What are you?" Nia lifted her face. "A servant to the thread that brought me here." "Speak without riddles," Olumide hissed. She breathed once, steady as an oarsman at dawn. "I am of the river mother's line, born under a vow. I carry the tongue that the elements heed. I came because the prince's path was marked by a shadow with horns, one that seeks a kingdom, not merely a crown." A rustle passed like wind. Even the masks seemed to lean closer. The priest's eyes narrowed. "If you are river-born, why hide? Why slither into the palace as a maid?" "Because prophecy swallows those who stare at it," she answered. "A warning shouted from the gates is ignored. A whisper in the garden can alter a heart." Olumide struck. "Confession. A creature of spirits pretending servitude to entrap a prince. Exile her beyond the stone walls. Let the river reclaim its own." The staff fell 3 times on the stone. The hall decided as halls often do, half afraid, half convinced, and wholly eager to be done with difficult truths. The decree was spoken. Nia would be exiled at sunset. By the gate of flint, where travelers swore oaths to return, the sky burned the color of ripe palm fruit. People gathered in uneasy clusters. Some cast stones of insults, some wept, most merely watched, for watching is one of the cruelest comforts. Oba reached for Nia's hand. "I will ride with you." "You will not," came the queen, stepping between them. But her voice shook. A mother's heart wages endless war against the crown upon it. Nia turned to Oba, and in her palm glinted a bracelet woven of river grass and 3 cowries, like small moons caught in green. "Wear this. When water speaks, listen. When iron refuses, do not force it. When you hear a horn that no man blows, run toward it, not away." "Come back to me," Oba said, a plea and a command braided as one. She smiled. Pain, pride, and promise in a single curve. "Our thread has not finished its weave." The guards escorted her past the boundary stones, where the city's drumbeat thins and goat bells become the kingdom's only music. She did not look back. The people think that means strength. Sometimes it means the heart would break if the eyes obeyed. Naya walked for days along a road the later travelers would swear did not exist the day before. Dust rose like faded incense. At night, she slept beneath trees that whispered in the old tongue, the tongue plants remember, and children sometimes speak before they learn words that please adults. On the third dawn, mist drew nets across the path. A river revealed itself, coiling slow and dark. Nia knelt and pressed her palm to the water. "Mother," she murmured, "the door is open." The horned one moves. The river lay still, then rippled as if a great fish turned beneath. From the surface arose a shape, woman and current, crown of lily, eyes of far-off rain. The river mother regarded her child. "You took flesh where water should have stood. You loved where caution should have lived," Nia bowed. "The world was thirsty. I carried a gourd." "Thirst is endless," said the mother. "Gourds crack. Then give me a calabash that does not." The water smiled the way water does, by widening. "You ask for a thing that must be won." The horned shadow wears an antlered mask and drinks fear as wine. It has bargained with a man who counts coins like a miser counts days. It seeks to turn the prince's destiny into a chain leash for the realm. "Olumide," Nia whispered. "The name is a leaf," the mother said. "The wind is the thing that moves it. You must meet the wind." "What must I do?" "The old way," said the river. 3 trials, stone, ash, and echo. Pass them, and your tongue will carry the strength not merely to soothe flame or soften iron. Your words will bind the horned one to truth. Where? Where the kingdom's first oath was sworn, the stone of names. The river's surface clouded, then cleared to show a vision. A pillar of black granite deep in the forest, carved with the first king's marks, crowned by a stubborn fig whose roots gnawed the rock like patient teeth. "Bring the prince." Only 2 voices can seal the binding, yours and the one whose destiny the shadow seeks to rewrite. "How will I reach him?" "He is caged by counsel and fear." "Rivers find one another," the mother said. "So do threads." Mist blew. The water was only water again, but in Nia's hand lay a token she had not held a breath earlier. A small horn, carved from pale bone, etched with coils like sleeping snakes. "Blow when the world is most silent," whispered a voice that might have been the river or the wind. "He will hear." While Nia sought trials in the green hush, Okuta Ile grew louder. Olumide's whisper had become a command. He stood at the king's side more often, mapping taxes with neat fingers, oiling the hinges of the court with little gifts that purchased big favors. The eldest priest, uneasy but bound by the decision already cast, offered rituals that calmed the fearful and irritated the brave. Oba moved like a lion, pacing the edges of a snare. He wore the river grass bracelet hidden beneath his sleeve. At night he stood by the ancestral shrine, but the smoke rose mute. It is a way of the spirits to withhold speech until we stop asking the question we prefer and ask the question we fear. The queen came to him once, late, candle cupped against the draught. "My son," she said softly, "I chose the kingdom over your longing." "I do not know if I have saved anything at all." Oba touched her hand. "If I am to be king, it must be as a whole man, not a half one kept safe." "Wholeness," she sighed. "It is a crown heavier than gold." The first trial met him at dawn, a stretch of broken earth where quarriers long ago bit giant teeth from the ground. The path ended at a wall of boulders stacked by no human hand. Oba pressed his palm to a slab. It thrummed faintly, like a low drum hidden underground. "Stone does not yield to force," Nia had said once, lightly, while moving a pestle through yam. "It yields to listening." Oba closed his eyes. Wind touched one ear, then the other. He walked along the wall, counting under his breath without numbers, feeling where the hum softened. There, a crack thin as a promise but wide enough for a man who refused to be larger than necessary. He turned sideways and the mountain let him through. By noon, the sun gnawed at his shoulders. A clearing opened, full of blackened stumps and the tang of old charcoal, an ancient burn left to remember itself. In the center stood a circle of grey ash that the wind could not lift, not even a grain. Ash remembers heat and refuses dance. Oba knelt. Ash cannot be conquered, he murmured, recalling the bracelet's lesson, only honored. He cupped a little in his palm and blew across it, not to scatter but to cool. He spoke to it as one speaks to elders. Teach me what you kept. The grey surface rippled. Within it, for a heartbeat, appeared Naya's face, tired, unafraid. Then a path ribboned away, faint but sure, like a shadow cast by something you cannot yet see. Evening brought the last trial, a canyon of echo where every sound answered with 10 voices. Oba shouted his name and heard a chorus of kings and strangers. Then he remembered the river's counsel. When you hear a horn that no man blows, run toward it, not away. He raised the bone horn, hesitated, and did not blow. Instead he listened. There, between echoes, a thread of silence, thinner than hair. He stepped where there was no reply, where the canyon swallowed sound instead of returning it. Silence is not emptiness, it is a door. He passed through. Night had unrolled its indigo cloth by the time Oba reached the stone of names, the pillar of black granite carved with the marks of first rulers, roots of a stubborn fig braided down its sides. Fireflies orbited like slow stars. A figure waited near, river light in her eyes and dust on her feet. For a moment they simply stood, proof against fear. You came, she said. I heard, he answered and held up the horn he had not blown. Nia touched the stone. The horned one draws near. It bought the voices of the unsure and the hands of the greedy. It will make a bid for the throne not with swords, but with story, a false tale all will want to believe because it spares them courage. Then we will tell the truer one, Oba said. Nia's smile was a crescent moon. 2 truths bind stronger than one. At my word, the horned mask will have to answer, not to power, but to what is. She stepped close enough that the smell of river and smoke braided around them. But understand this, when we bind it, a price will be asked. Not from me alone, from you, what price? The shape of a king, Nia said softly. Not the crown, but the shape. Many wear the first, few accept the second. Oba bowed his head to the stone of names, to the roots that ate rock with patience, to the woman whose arrival had untied and retied his life. I will pay what a true king must. In the dark, far off, there came the faintest clatter, like horn against antler. The forest leaned in. The masks the ancestors once carved seemed to wake in the mind's corners. Naya placed her palm over the cowries on his wrist. Then attend, she whispered. At moonrise, the horned shadow will come to bargain. We will answer, we will bind the wind still to hear them. A night bird called once, then held its breath. Somewhere water took a deeper course, making room. And beneath a fig that chewed stone, a prince and an enchanted maid readied themselves to rewrite the very thread the world had spun for them.